Welcome back to New York Radio. I'm John Smith, and we're here with the popular Miss Rose Schneiderman, Fire Department Captain Frank Rubino, and first-hand witness William Shepard here for a personal interview. You've heard all about the Triangle Fire from 2 weeks ago. I doubt a soul has missed it. Captain, we'll start with you first. What did you see when you first arrived at the scene?
When we got there, we had to organize the crowd to make sure that no one else would get hurt. And then after we did that, we went and started working on the fire.
Outstanding stuff. When did you first hear about the fire?
We got our first alarm around 4:45 in the afternoon. So then we got our crew prepped and got to the fire as fast as we could.
Interesting, very interesting. What role did you have in terms of putting out the fire? Did you have to enter the building and try to save people, or just give orders from outside?
Well, my job was to be on the hose, which we originally were scared that it was not going to have a lot of water pressure. But when we got to the fire, we were lucky enough to find out that it actually had high water pressure. So then we just contacted the pressure stations on the east and west side of town and let them know that we were about to use it.
Okay, I understand. So when you got to the fire, did anything about the fire seem different from ones that you handled in the past or like previously in your career?
This fire was definitely one of the worst I've seen. Not like in terms of the fire itself, but just of the stuff that we saw. There were some women that were trapped, so they had to jump out the building instead of burning to death. Which, I mean, you could literally see like their clothes and bodies on fire as they smashed the pavement. But sometimes they would still be burning, and then we'd have to use the hose on them too.
Wow, tragic. That's very tragic stuff. In terms of putting out the fire, though, how much of a hassle was that? Like, how long did that take?
We had some help with putting this one out. A ladder company let us borrow a 90-foot ladder that they had. And then we had some citizens on the ground hold up nets for people to jump. But they were made for one people to jump at a time, but it was like 5 to 6. So that ended up not working as well as we planned. But the whole place was covered in hangers, unlike the crown and stuff. And then, yeah, it was just, people would just keep jumping. We were trying to hose the building, and it was just kind of a hassle. But all in all, I think we did our best we could.
Wow, this is truly amazing. Well, thanks for being so brave and putting that sucker out. And thanks for coming out today, Captain Rubino.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I think we'll switch over to our other guest now, but before we do that, a quick break with Bev Grant's Ballad of the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire.
In the heart of New York City, near Washington Square, in 1911, March winds were cold and bare. A fire broke out in a building 10 stories high, and 146 young girls in those flames did die. On the top floor of that building, 10 stories in the air, these young girls were working in an old sweatshop there. They were sewing shirtwaists.
And we're back here with Miss Rose Schneiderman. I've heard so much about you and your speeches. What was your immediate reaction to the news of the fire?
I thought that it easily could have been me. I didn't work at the Triangle, but I did similar work in similar conditions. It could have been me and the girls I knew.
Wow. Most girls at the factories are providing a lot of income for their families. I hope you won't mind the invasive question, but what is your family like?
My father died when I was 10, and I am the oldest of 4 children. My mother was forced to put us in an orphanage for some time, and she couldn't afford her own children. I was in school until I turned 13, and then I left to begin working and help provide for my family.
That must have been very difficult for you.
It was, but look where I am now and the progress I have made.
Yes, you're right. Speaking of which, your recent speech has made everyone sit up and pay attention. Do you have anything more to say to the public?
Nothing that I have not already said. The labors of my sisters still go unheard. We need action. Girls younger than 16 have died in fires like this.
Do you think the strikes and organized unions are helping to combat the tragedies that we just saw 2 weeks ago?
Absolutely. The men are organized and they have gained an 8-hour workday. The women have seen these things and also want organization. We have found that individually we don't amount to much, for it is easy for them to replace us. We must organize.
We'll see that the future will hold for women workers. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Schneiderman.
Thank you for having me, John.
And another quick break for Mike Stout and his song The Triangle Shirtwaist Fire.
There they were, screaming from the windows, trapped like a herd, nowhere to go. On the 8th and 9th floors, facing an inferno of heat and flames, a living horror show. Young immigrants just trying to earn a living, brutally exploited in a place so unforgiving. One door was locked, the other was blocked. The elevator crashed, the fire escape collapsed. Choking from the smoke, unable to breathe. The fire engines came, but the ladders didn't reach.
So, Mr. Shepard, I heard you were an eyewitness when the Triangle Fire broke out 2 weeks ago.
Yes, that's right. It was 4:35 on a Saturday afternoon, and I was standing across the street from the shirtwaist factory when all of a sudden I saw flames burst out from the 8th floor. And shortly after that, the flames spread to the 9th and 10th floor as well.
Wow, holy crap, absolutely crazy. So can you tell us a little bit about when you saw the fire and like what was taking place?
Of course. It was a horrible sight, and as soon as the flames became too intense, those working in the shirtwaist company began to jump from the top 3 floors in order to put themselves out of their misery. As they fell, their bodies were still ablaze, and you could hear them screaming as they fell to their death.
What a tragic situation altogether. Tell us just a little bit about the aftermath and like what it looked like when the smoke finally cleared.
Yeah, for sure. After all was said and done, almost every ambulance in Manhattan arrived on the scene. They were constantly hauling bodies to the morgue where they could be dealt with, and along with that, there were thousands of civilians who gathered around the scene who were screaming and crying at the horrible sight they had just laid their eyes on.
Wow, like what a truly tragic situation, just all around. Sadly, that is all the time that we have today, though. Thank you so much for everyone who participated in the interviews, and join us next time on New York Radio.